This is a case study in corporate counseling. Breaking news, betrayal at GenCell, and how nonviolent communications can answer the issues around that. Newscast presented by Kathy Forberger, Lori Pfeffer, and Heather Walesko.
Tonight on Midwest Daily, we have breaking news. GenaCell, the pharmaceutical giant that has recently taken over Texel, has recently had rounds and rounds of layoffs. We can only imagine the betrayal of the employees. Tonight we have a special guest who is one of those employees who has been laid off. The CEO calls it a reduction of force, and he also calls it a merger of equals. But our story tonight is about that ugly feeling of betrayal. We have our guest. It seems to revolve around the guest and two central figures and an issue of counseling. The special guest wants to remain anonymous, so we will not say her name, but she is on our program tonight, and I would ask her to please explain to our listeners what these two central figures have in relation to this story, and what is the issue with the counseling program? What does that have to do with your layoff and this betrayal that so many feel when they've been laid off?
First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me to the program, Heather. The story began when Genetair bought out Texel. I'd been a Texel employee for a number of years. I'd gotten to know our manager, Jackson, and over a period of time after the merger, there was continuing stress and feeling of uncertainty about our jobs. And Jackson called me 3 months early for an early review, which I thought was kind of unusual. And at first he seemed very encouraging. He praised my work. He said that it would take a while for Texel employees to get noticed, but that I should be patient and hang in there. But then on the other hand, he made a comment about maybe I need counseling and referred me to the EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program, and really strongly suggested that I go into the corporate counseling program within GenaCell. And during that time, I met with a corporate counselor. Her name, I won't say her name for reasons. And during that time, I was very open. I became very comfortable with her. I really opened up about my marriage, about my frustrations at work, about my frustrations with the way that things were being run by the new management team. And that later came back to haunt me.
Okay, so I'm hearing your manager and what seems to be his approval and yet his insistence that you enter the counseling program, and you are talking about a betrayal with your counselor. Was there any liability form signed off? What was the situation with that?
I had only been in counseling 1 or 2 sessions, and they asked me to go to Human Resources and fill out some forms. I really didn't think a whole lot about it at that point. It was only after the fact that I realized that they'd had me sign off on liability forms.
How many sessions did you go to with your counselor?
7.
7 sessions. Okay.
On the day of the last session, I was called to Jackson's office, and there was someone there that I didn't even recognize. And Jackson said something about my position being a redundancy and that I was being eliminated. And it was during the transition out of the corporation that one of the other employees made a remark about comments I'd made about the management team, which is something that only the counselor would have known. I didn't say anything about that to anyone else. And I strongly believe that my counselor betrayed and gave up my information, my personal conversations to management and to the corporation. And that's what got me fired.
What is the betrayal that you feel from your manager?
He knew me for a long period of time. He didn't stick up for me. He didn't defend me. He was the one who called me in and told me that I was being let go.
Okay. And just to be clear, you did know that the information in your counseling sessions could be used to jeopardize your position at GenaCell.
No, I did not know that it would be used to jeopardize my position. I was told that it would be used to evaluate security issues within the corporation. I was not told that it could be used to evaluate whether it was a team player or whatever.
Okay, I understand. Luckily and graciously, we have a guest tonight who's a specialist in nonviolent communication, Mr. Ike Lassiter. And his book, Words That Work in Business, he talks a lot about feeling, need, and evaluative terms and how to talk in a nonviolent way. In this way, it seems very practical, very relevant to what is happening in this situation. Here's a quote from his book.
Knowing before you start
Plus,
speaking.
Has a couple of benefits. It fulfills your need for empathy and reduces the number of words you use. That's Words That Work in Business. Mr. Ike Lassiter, welcome to the program.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, can you please open us up with what these terms mean to you and a little bit about your work in nonviolent communication?
Well, sure. In general, when we're in pain and our thoughts are a whirl, we are not able to empathize with others until our needs for empathy are met sufficiently. Therefore, the empathy is important first, our self-empathy. And it has a way of integrating nonviolent communication. Once we're connected with ourselves, we will be more interested and curious about connecting with other persons. So the different terms that you're mentioning, the evaluative terms, the feelings, and the needs, I think we can use our guest as an example of how to look at these different terms. So an evaluative word like betrayal really has a powerful feeling behind it. She might be feeling hurt or angry. Guest, can you agree that you're feeling disappointed, hurt, and angry?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And what that really reflects a need of is trust and dependability. So when you say you were betrayed by Jackson, what you really mean is that your need to trust him went unmet. And that kind of takes the sting out of the situation when we look at it in an observation rather than a judgment kind of a way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense.
However, so it makes sense, but she still has the need, right? I mean, how does self-empathy relate to this need that she has?
Well, for instance, the need to be safe when talking with Marta, the therapist. I think that she could have done a better job of being self-empathetic when she was with Marta. Marta made her feel comfortable immediately, and that was a feeling that our guest went with. Rather than protecting herself and recognizing and observing that Marta was taping each conversation and that she needed to sign off on non-confidentiality forms, she could have used this way to protect her needs. She can't trust everybody, so she needs to be self-empathetic when things are coming up that would lead to a reason to not trust. And Marta gave a lot of those signs.
So the issue is not with the need, it's with the assessment of the need. And you have a quote, I think it's really relevant to what we're saying here. We often get triggered while interacting with others. The stimulus may arise from something someone else said, or something we did or said ourselves. Without awareness, a trigger leads us into habitual reaction. From the moment of awareness, however, we can choose to intervene to create an alternative to the habitual. Guest, how do you feel about that quote?
I feel like I'm really stuck at this point, and I'm really struggling to figure out how to get beyond this.
Do you think you could have been more aware, or I mean, were you in touch with your needs? How do you see yourself practicing self-empathy? There's a lot of questions going on right now for you, aren't there?
Yes, there are. I think I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, I would only add that this is a practice that can be developed. Observing your needs and observing where you're blocking connection with other human beings and observing your own self empathy can become its own habit. So instead of reacting to feelings, which is so natural, being quiet and still, considering yourself and what you're actually feeling and needing, you can build that into your repertoire of coping mechanisms and it will play well for you in your next job.
Guess, do you feel like practicing self-empathy can be a pragmatic step toward awareness?
It sounds like something I'll have to give a lot of consideration to. I think I will want to pick up the book and read more about it. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight.
What a fitting and gracious closing. And thank you, Mr. Lassiter, for joining our program tonight.
I was very glad to be with you. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, listeners. Please stay tuned for our next program, the 9 o'clock news. And we will be following this story. Hopefully, we'll have Mr. Lassiter back on the program and we'll make sure that we continue to keep you informed about all of your feelings and get the right professionals here to give you the information that you need. Good night.